This channel is made possible by viewers like you. My viewers, subscribers, and patrons greatly help to keep this channel going. I wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for all of you. Please make sure to subscribe so you don't miss any uploads. And if you'd like to go the extra mile, please check out my Patreon page. For just $1 a month, you'll get access to what I'm working on, previews of upcoming content, and even early videos, along with other tier options for those that are interested. Thank you, and now on to the video. I had my eye on Achilles Legends Untold for a while. I was able to dive into it after it exited its early access period, and I think the developers have something special here. This is one of those indie titles where it may not be the most original of ideas, but how it is executed and delivered, you see that the developers understand the genre that they are playing within, and provide something that does a good job of hooking the player. This was one of those games that I found myself naturally coming back to for a few weeks, because I wanted to get more of the exploration and progression. Sure, there might have been a been there, seen that sort of thing with some of the design and mechanics, but fusing this with ancient Greece, some fantasy, and a fun combat system means you have enough to keep you engaged and enjoying this title. Achilles Legends Untold is a really fun indie.
Predictable sea. At times you can tame it, yet other times it leads you right into the heart of the storm. Helen, the wife of the king of Sparta, Menelaus, was kidnapped. The princes of Troy, who violated the sacred principle of hospitality, are at fault.
Achilles does a really good job with the 3 different elements that work to create this addictive and fun experience. The exploration, combat, and progression all work to keep me invested in this title. This is a game where I wanted to keep running around the open environments and complete each of the smaller areas that I would find. Along with that, there was a variety of weapons and combinations to try out to provide your own personal spin on the experience. Progression is addictive because you level up at a steady rate, and you are always working towards a new stat to improve. Along with this, there are plenty of ones to unlock and improve on. At the same time too, Achilles feels like this mix of a Souls-like game and more of a traditional hack and slash RPG. It is challenging, but it doesn't feel like this brutal uphill battle that you would find from something like a From Software game, but rather elements are taken from the genre and blended into this version that the developers are trying to deliver. As a single player title, it is one of those that you want to boot up and spend hours in, finding better weapons, creating new combinations, and bettering your character. It's also a game where you can just sit down and play it for an hour, and you'll end up seeing that 3 hours actually passed. I really like this game. In Achilles, you get to use a lot of different weapons from various swords, spears, axes, and a lot more. As you explore and complete quests, you will find plenty of new weapons to try out and experiment with. The interesting thing about the weapons is that you can opt to focus on having a shield, two-handed weapons, or various dual wielding, depending on the player's preferences. Weapons themselves have their own attributes that relate to different stats. For example, if one weapon is heavily focused on strength or endurance, then you will do more damage if you have more points pumped into those two stats. Since there's a lot of different combinations and many new weapons to find, you are actively encouraged to find and, more importantly, try different ones out. Plus, the game makes much of this very welcoming, as you can respec your character at any time. Say you start using a weapon that is better with a stat that you have not been investing in. Then you can retweak your character to better suit that if you want. In terms of player expression and combat, the game does a good job at providing that. And all of this is intertwined with the exploration, which is a bit of that open world design with question markers to seek out along with the player-initiated exploration. The game provides you with points of interest to seek out, but not everything is like this. Oftentimes, on my way to find something with a certain question mark, I would encounter various new battles, smaller side dungeons to explore, weapons to find, along with other things to keep stuff engaging. Plus, something else I liked is that after the short tutorial, you're dropped into the open world area and can explore a lot of it and ignore the main quest for quite a while if you want. I love when games let you do this, let it take it all in at your own pace. And back to the progression. As you defeat enemies, you'll gain experience points. Once you level up, you can slot a new point into a stat or skill to learn. Something I really like is how you can see your whole set of upgrade paths. This means that you can properly plan out a build, or like I said before, change it into something else too. Since the exploration, combat, and progression all gel well together, Achilles turned into a game that was very tough to put down. I wanted to just keep running around and grinding. Not because I felt like I needed to, but rather because I wanted to because of all the rewards. Choosing to go in one direction could lead to a bigger set of fights, new weapons, or just more experience to earn. Achilles does have Souls-like elements with the use of its stamina bar for your actions, some interconnectedness with the levels and areas, along with the dropping of your current amount of experience when you die. I felt like Achilles was more of a hack and slash with some Souls and action RPG elements mixed together. So don't expect a traditional Souls experience, but rather Souls influences and some mechanics lifted from the genre. If you like something with plenty of exploration and a meaty amount of single-player content, this is a good one. Plus you get access to New Game Plus at the end too. To the game's credit, there are co-op style missions that are separate from the main game and act like more siloed co-op missions, but it feels more like the developer was toying around with co-op than rather really committing to it. If a sequel is made, I think drop-in, drop-out two-player action would be a nice option, especially with this openness to it. Lastly, I should mention the story. I will keep it brief mainly because what was here was fine, and it never really hindered the better aspects of the game. Some might get some more out of it than I did. I mostly found it to be fine and serviceable, but the game is clearly more focused on its gameplay. Achilles is a really enjoyable game, and one that turned out to be a pleasant surprise for 2023, but there were a few flaws that I found along the way. One thing I found to be annoying was that at times, with how the lock-on or auto-lock worked, so you can manually lock onto an enemy and then swap to other foes. If you go and attack an enemy, it will auto-lock onto them. This can be a bit disorienting with this auto-lock, and I wish that if you wanted to lock on, then you just needed to hit that button each time. Now I do think that there is an easy fix with this. Just allow a toggle if you want to have the auto lock on or not. While the main focus of the game is on the combat, there is a decent amount of dialogue sequences. The way they are presented can be rather boring. The camera just hangs there as two characters talk. Different camera angles or zooms in and out, or even a shot reverse shot would have helped to add a dynamic element to the talking. I had plenty of bugs where in one instance an enemy would not engage me at all, and a bug side quest. Then I had an odd bug where the game would not let me equip weapons that I had in my inventory. This eventually corrected itself, but it was an odd one. I do think that bosses are an area that could use some more refinement. They can be pretty fun for the first few, but for the most part each of the fights can be completed the same way. Do a running attack at the enemy, run away, and then repeat it again. How you approach or need to attack the boss needs some variations to those fights, so it can be more distinct rather than just another boss fight, if that makes any sense. And to clarify, it isn't that the boss fights that are here are bad, it's just that they are rather samey, and in some ways the first boss feels like the last. Lastly, towards the end of the game, it felt like the developers were trying to stretch out the runtime by having you need to fight many of the prior bosses again. This felt like padding and tedious. Achilles has a lot of good elements and honestly a game that you can easily lose yourself into for a lot of hours, so some things to be done to improve the ending parts would be really appreciated. Achilles Legends Untold is a really fun indie, and one that I'm glad that I played. Again, like I said, it was a title that I ended up coming back to for a few weeks, because of how addictive and enjoyable it is. Is it the most innovative indie I have played? No, not at all, and neither does it have to be. It needs to be fun and deliver on what it sets out to do. Combat is solid, and the wealth of weapons and combinations made that area fun to experiment with. They really did do a good job with the exploration as well. I hope to see more from this developer, and maybe we'll get to see a sequel or something else in the future. I recommend Achilles Legends Untold. Have you played Achilles? If so, let me know your thoughts on it in the comments down below. If you're interested in being notified of new videos, please hit the subscribe button and bell. And if you would like to support the channel and get early access to content, please check out my Patreon. All of the links will be at the end of this video and within the description. And thank you very much for watching.